Hey everyone, welcome back to the next episode of the First Gen Psychologist. This series, we will cover topics that destigmatize mental health, as well as topics for personal development and empowerment centered on the First Gen experience. I'm Dr. Lisette, aka the First Gen Psychologist. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm a First Gen Latina psychologist, coach, speaker, writer, and today I am your host. Today, we will be talking about first-gen entrepreneur moms and how they overcome unique challenges. And we'll be learning more about this from Elizabeth Sanchez, who is an LMFT. So let me share a little bit more about Elizabeth with you all. Elizabeth is a first-generation Latina who's an LMFT and specializes in EMDR therapy and working with first-generation working professionals. Elizabeth enjoys helping her colleagues through EMDR consultations and private practice consultations. Elizabeth has also collaborated with a creative team to bring you Cafecito y Calidad, a highly caffeinated, qualified conversations podcast featuring discussions with various experts in the mental health field. I laugh because I have too much energy on my own without the coffee. I'm drinking water, and I like to drink my water from a fancy glass because it makes me happy.
It, one of the things that I ask all my guests when we do our podcast and even Instagram Live is, how do you take your coffee or your tea? You might be more of a tea person than Dr. Lizette.
Well, I like coffee. Let me tell you, I bought a coffee yesterday, and I drink like this much of it every time because it's just, by that point I'm like, I am ready. Like I couldn't fall asleep last
Your
night.
energy's already going.
Yeah, so I maybe just like the little cafecito cups, the ones people use for espresso. That's probably what I need for like my regular coffee. But anyway, I'm so happy to have you here and to be here in this space with you. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling wonderful. I feel very honored and grateful for you to be able to share. I'm able to share this space with me as well.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Thank you for sharing your coffee drink. That's always so important to me.
What is your coffee drink? I should know your coffee. Yeah.
So I drink mine black. I like cold brew
Yes.
coffee. I drink it black. But when I'm feeling fancy, I'll do like a one of my favorites right now at Starbucks is having the cold cream on top. But they have like a macadamia one right now. It's delicious. It's fancy. But right now, right now it's black. I usually drink it black.
Yeah, that's typically how I drink it. But if I do want a treat, I usually will just get decaf. And everyone, I know decaf, I know, but it does have a small amount of caffeine, so it makes it so that I could drink a bit more of my drink. But I love lavender lattes. I love lavender lattes. I love them so much.
I've heard really good things about those. I've had them once. They have the little lavender petals on top too, no? Sometimes?
Sometimes. I think it just depends on, the barista and the artist. But yeah, this is part of doing my doctorate in Oregon. There was all these coffee shops. I would try them, and that I loved. And so, but anyway, let's get into the conversation.
All right, let's do it.
Not coffee talk, but so to get into this, what are some of the specific challenges that first generation entrepreneur moms often encounter? How do you recommend overcoming them?
Okay, so I'm going to be talking around, this is a wonderful question. And so I'm going to be talking about it from my personal experience because I am a first gen entrepreneur mother of a 2-year-old little boy. But also a lot of my caseload revolves around working with other entrepreneur moms. I'll keep everything confidential, but we'll be talking about specific themes that I've seen in my own life, but with working with clients. So one of the first one, Dr. Lisette, is really, I think parenting has come up a lot in my work with moms. My parents immigrated from Mexico, so they also are entrepreneurs, but, they worked a lot. They had to really keep our house going and financially, so I didn't really get to see them much. I didn't get to have a lot of quality time with them. So one of the things that I've seen in my work, my own personal work, but with clients is how do we work on balancing having quality time with our children while also investing time and building our businesses? Yeah. So one of the things that I've really had to do, and this goes into my next theme, is working on saying yes. With self-care. Self-care, I know we talk about no's and setting boundaries a lot, but I think saying yes to if somebody offers childcare, If
Mhm.
somebody offers to, pick you up a coffee or to, for your partner to take you out for maybe a date night, saying yes to filling up that cup. So that
Mhm.
way, when you are feeling a little bit more present when you're with your children.
Mhm.
We, with a lot of the work with my clients and myself, it's a lot of our sessions are around self-care. Like, how are
Yeah.
you taking care of you?
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't want to
so-
interrupt you, but I love that because when you said say yes, I was like, oh, I'm so curious where this is going because I think in so much of our work, we're so focused on how do we help people say no? How do we help people like set different boundaries? And so I love framing it as a big part of, we always hear it's like when you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself. And so in this case, you're saying yes to
Mhm.
yourself. Perhaps that means you're saying
Yes.
no to someone else, but it's yes to me. And that's so
Mhm.
special and so important for moms.
Yes, Dr. Lizette, because if you think about it with entrepreneurship, you're juggling two babies. You're juggling your
Yeah.
business and you're juggling your children.
Yeah.
And you really need to make, it's a necessity to be able to take care of yourself. So that's one of the biggest themes that comes up in our conversation, in my conversation with my own therapist and my own conversation with clients is how do we work on saying yes? And then the next one is no, boundaries and burnout.
Yeah.
Because we being Latina, I know that growing up, I was seen as maybe malagradecida or seen as it being bad or shamed for saying no.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work with clients is working on saying no to things that are maybe no longer serving you or things that
Mhm.
don't feel good for you.
Mhm.
When I became a mother, I think before I became a mother, and I kind of noticed some of my burnout already, I
Yeah.
was taking on a lot of different projects as an entrepreneur, trying to build my practice.
Yeah.
Once my son came, I really had to be intentional
Mhm.
around the projects that I took on, the clients that I took on, because I needed to make sure that I was also present for him as well.
Mhm. No, absolutely, and the work that we do can be really emotionally taxing, and, I know that there's moments where I'm done with my day and I think, "Oh, I'm glad I don't have anything else that I need to do right now." I was like, because I'm just a cat
Yeah.
mom, and so he's fine, he's fine. Like, but if I think about that, right, with my colleagues or friends or just, thinking about my other family members when I see them with their little ones, it's your day doesn't end when close your computer. It
No,
doesn't even end when you go to sleep sometimes.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
especially when they're little. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, being able, and I think the pandemic really, from my experience and what I've seen with clients is
Yeah.
learning to really set those boundaries around work and family. When
Yeah.
we were home, there was really no, it was hard to establish those boundaries. And
Mhm.
now that, people are going back to the office, it's becoming a little bit easier.
Mhm.
But I think boundaries has been a big one to working on avoiding that burnout with our moms.
Yeah.
Because I think I did in one of my posts on my Instagram page, a
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom, this is a stay-at-home mom, doctor, that it's equivalent to working 2.5 jobs.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. I don't so I can't no. I can barely take care of myself.
Like
So
2.5 jo so now adding a toddler or adding a baby and then your job, so it just all these things pile up, which is why I think a lot of my sessions with clients or myself has been like, how do we learn to say that yes to self-care, to drinking
Mhm.
water, to nourishing our body, instead of
Mhm.
just being on the go? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, so saying yes, setting the different boundaries, and so, when I hear some of those challenges that are coming up within that is that even when you gave the example, I thought of like, wow, that would be hard when someone says, "Hey, I'll watch your kid," especially if you're a first-time mom. I can imagine it's like, "Well, I'll watch your kid. Why don't you go on a walk? Why don't you go get a massage? Why don't you go do this?" And in my I
yeah.
guess I haven't personally experienced it, but thinking about how challenging that can be of thinking about, leaving the baby to say yes to you.
Oh yeah, the mother guilt. I think
Um,
that's a big mom guilt and like learning to write. I like to say like
yeah,
riding the wave of guilt is
yeah,
being able to sit with that guilt, but reminding yourself like in order for you to be able to show up for your business, for your
yeah,
family, for your children, we need to take
yeah,
those minutes, whether it's half an hour, even
yeah,
15 minutes to go and grab some water, go outside and take some deep breaths. That
yeah.
makes all the difference sometimes. So I
Absolutely.
was, riding that guilt, the wave of guilt is really important.
Mom guilt. Okay, so specific challenge, mom guilt. That's a big one.
It's huge. I think in general, it's hard, but when I really when you're an entrepreneur, it's like, but I kind of have to go and do this, see these clients and
Yeah.
work because this is also my baby. I also need to continue nourishing so that I can provide for my family.
Mhm.
That goes into the next challenge. Money wounds is a big one.
Okay, share more about that. Let's share more about that. Yeah, go on.
So no, I think that's a big one. Because you know, growing up first gen, I saw that scarcity mindset. My parents always working, having to save just so that we can keep going day to day.
Yeah.
So money wounds comes up, especially being an entrepreneur, able to set my fee of like I need to like set my fee so that I can make enough money so that I'm not working like my parents 7 days a week
Mhm.
and that I can still spend enough time with my son and
Exactly.
build his future and his career. But that's been hard, especially if it wasn't, if, especially my parents modeling working all the time.
Yes.
So really having to break that and being able to challenge myself, like, hey, this is my fee and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can maybe relate to this,
Yes.
Dr. Lisa. But knowing, hey, I need to be able to model to my son, like,
Mhm.
you know, it's making money isn't a bad thing. We need to.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm there with you. I think that's really common, especially for most first gen folks who enter entrepreneurship. You're in there, you're trying to find your rate. I have had many conversations with my parents when I would set a rate, let's say for speaking engagement or even
Yeah.
my private, like my individual clients, and I'm like, oh, mom, I quoted them this, or my dad, and then mom's like, Mija, like, what if you don't get it? What if you like lose it? Because what if they think that's too expensive? And having to explain to
All
them,
the
I'm like, no, this is actually a market rate. Like, if anything, I have been undercharging. Like, I need to be
time.
charging
Mm-hmm.
more for my livelihood, my worth. My clients get a much better version of me when I'm not burnt out. And in the same way I think about it with motherhood, it's like you need that to be able to show up with
Mm-hmm.
your clients where you're having that space, and you don't want to feel burnt out by the time you're wanting to play with your kid, have that quality time. And so, but
Yeah.
yeah, that scarcity mindset is real and it's hard.
No, absolutely, Dr. Zep, because no, you're right. I've had these conversations with my parents, especially my mom. She's like, that's a lot. Are you sure that you want to charge this much? And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, like I think I'm undercharging sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and so needing to find our balance with that. And sometimes it does take that push of, I'm not just doing it for me, right? I'm doing it for me to
Mhm.
have the capacity to be there for those who I love. And while I wish that everyone could have that mindset all of the time, sometimes you need that little push. And entering motherhood, you realize like I really
Yeah.
can't do everything
Yeah.
in the same way I did it before.
No, absolutely. I think when my son was born, I think
Yeah.
he was really like the push. I think I really needed because every time I'm like, it's not only for me now,
Yeah.
it's for him and his
Yeah.
future. I won't, we don't have to dive into this, but I was comparing like, the amount of money I made before my son to and I'm working less client-wise. I'm making more money now with my
Mhm.
son than when I before him because now I'm very intentional. And
Yeah.
that's what I tell my clients like I think having the intention like what's the intention behind taking on this project? What's the intention behind taking on this client, right? So
Mhm.
that you're not burning out with all of these different projects you have going on.
Exactly, exactly. And, did you have any more specific challenges that you wanted to highlight? I'm
Oh,
wondering if
yes.
you want to switch. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the other ones was imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Imposter of not only being an entrepreneur but also motherhood, right?
Mhm.
So just to briefly touch upon this one,
Yeah.
when I first had my son, I was researching everything, wanting to be like the perfect mother, right? And
Mm.
being the perfect business owner, and
Mm.
perfection doesn't exist. It
No.
doesn't exist. And one of the things that I've had to work with clients and myself is being very compassionate with myself, being comfortable making those mistakes
Mhm.
because there's no
Mhm.
manual around what it's how to be a mom or even how to be a
Yeah.
businesswoman. I didn't go to business school. I went to get my license,
Yeah.
my LMFT, right? They don't teach us
Yeah.
this.
No. I hope that starts to change a bit for grad
I hope
programs because
so.
I hear that so much in our field. But I'm with you. You don't know this, and I think that's a big part of being first gen. There's so much that you don't know, right? And that's what leads to people wanting to try to strive for perfection because I don't know what I'm doing, but if I don't do it perfectly, then people will know I don't know what I'm doing. That's the
Yes.
imposter feeling.
Yes.
And so yeah, recognize you can't do it all.
No, we can't. Yes. But I think those are the big like themes and challenges that have come up for me and also my clients.
Yes, and then and you shared a few strategies between like how to navigate that, right? Like saying yes, having self-compassion,
Mhm.
and if you're open, I would love to hear some of
Mhm.
what helps you keep your balance, like being a mother and running your business.
I've really had to build community. So I'm fortunate enough that I have other women of color who are also entrepreneurs that are facing similar challenges. It's been really nice to be able to give them a call or just get together with them so
Yeah.
that we can have these conversations and that I don't feel alone. We
Mhm.
weren't meant to run a business by ourselves. We're not meant to raise children on our own.
Mhm.
So I think building community has been big. Um, and positive affirmations have been huge for me as well. Every morning, first thing I do is I have my list of affirmations and I use that to ground before I get my day started with my
Mhm.
coffee.
Yeah.
um, and therapy. I think I've been in and out of therapy throughout, my life, but I think motherhood has really brought up a lot of different feelings. So therapy has helped me in many ways.
Yes. That community, having that, and then having all the additional support. I'm with you. Like, I love how you said it's like we're not meant to do any of these things alone, and
Mhm.
no, it's like you need a team. Most people hire at
Yes.
least an assistant or admin. Do you have someone to help you in some way?
Yes.
So why not apply that to motherhood? And so I know that you kind of highlighted that essentially, but do you have any other consejos that you would give to other first gen entrepreneur moms who are experiencing similar challenges?
I think just needing to work on that self-compassion,
Yeah.
motherhood and being able to acknowledge and validate that motherhood is hard already.
Yeah.
I don't think I think we do a lot as
Mhm.
mothers and
Mhm.
we don't take the time to really validate our and be like, this is a really hard thing to do. So a lot of validation.
Mhm.
I can't stress enough. I think the biggest thing is you are doing enough. You're probably doing more than you think you're doing, but you are doing enough. And build that community. I can't stress that enough, Dr. Lizette. Like, build that community so that when you are having those moments of, I feel burnt out,
Mhm.
I feel,
Mhm.
that imposter syndrome, you have people to lift you when you're struggling.
Yeah, so compassion, community. I feel like there's 3 C's here. What's the third C? I'm gonna have to think about this one.
And
Compassion, community,
cafecito.
Cafecito, there you go. Compassion, community, it just sounded like there had to be 3 C's. There you go. Compassion, community, cafecito,
Community,
or
yeah.
bueno, or your other beverage of choice. I was like, the other word that comes up to me is cocktail. I will say that.
Oh, you know what? Some
That's
wine,
that
that
works.
works too.
But so anyway, so this has been so wonderful. I feel like I've learned
Um,
so much from you, and it's always good to reiterate those messages because as an entrepreneur myself, like these are the lessons and these consejos also apply, right? Having that compassion,
yes.
leaning into the community, saying yes, because just
Mhm.
because I may not have these additional responsibilities does not mean that I wouldn't benefit from help
Oh, of
that would embed
course.
from that. And so welcoming that. And that can also be hard for first gens, accepting help because that means you have to
Oh,
ask
yeah.
for it. And
Oh, you
so,
cringe.
yeah, I know. I'm like, I have to ask for help. And you're like, Anyway, but that said, I feel like I've learned so much from you, and I'd love to know how we can support you and your work.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. So I do Calidad Holistic Wellness is my private practice. So you can find me on calidadholisticwellness.com, as well as my Instagram and TikTok. They're both under Calidad Holistic Wellness. I also launched a podcast at the beginning of this year called Cafecito y Calidad, where we talk about all things coffee and quality conversations. We are entering our season 2, where we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship as well, and different challenges that we face as first-gen entrepreneurs. So we also have an Instagram page called Cafecito y Calidad, so you can find us on there as well.
Awesome. Here, is it just at Cafecito? Let me put it down here for folks.
Sure.
Y Calidad?
Yes, y calidad, yes.
Okay, let me put it down here for folks to see.
And we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and my website has all of the episodes. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get the episodes sent to you through your email.
That's awesome. All right, y'all. So make sure you follow Elizabeth at Calidad Holistic Wellness. And, check out also Cafecito y Calidad so that you can learn more and hear from this podcast, have these really inspiring conversations.
Yeah.
So, Elizabeth, it was such a pleasure to have you on today. I'm so grateful for you. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you all for joining us today, joining us live. For those of you who are maybe watching this recorded, please share with someone who you think may benefit from this. And as always, we are live every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, as long as I can keep this up. So subscribe to never miss an episode. So thank you again, Elizabeth.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.